Imagine stepping back in time, 2,000 years ago, to the land we now call Israel. Forget the serene images you might have in your mind. Life in first century Judea during the time of Jesus was anything but peaceful. It was a chaotic, vibrant, and often dangerous world, a pressure cooker of empires, religions, and rebellion. This is the story of what it was really like to live in one of the most volatile periods in human history. Let's start with the basics, your daily life. The moment the sun rose, your day began. If you were a man, you were likely a farmer, a fisherman, or a craftsman. Your hands were calloused from working the land, mending nets, or shaping wood and stone. Work wasn't a 9-to-5 job. It was a sun-up to sundown struggle for survival. If you were a woman, your world was the home. You'd be grinding grain into flour, fetching water from the local well, a daily social event, baking flatbread, and raising children. Families were large, and everyone had a role to play. Your home was probably a simple 1- or 2-room house made of mud, brick, and stone, with a flat roof where you could sleep on hot nights. Forget privacy. Extended families, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins all lived together. Food was simple: bread, olives, figs, dates, and maybe some cheese or fish. Meat was a rare luxury, reserved for special feasts. And disease was a constant threat. A simple infection could be a death sentence, and life expectancy was brutally short, maybe around 30 or 40 years old. But your personal struggles were just one layer of the chaos. Looming over everything was the shadow of Rome. Roman legions patrolled the dusty roads. Their standards, with the iconic eagle, were a constant reminder of who was in charge. The Romans brought order. Yes, they built impressive roads and aqueducts, but it was an order enforced by the sword. Cross them, and the punishment was swift and brutal. Crucifixion, a method designed for maximum terror and humiliation, was a common public spectacle. Then came the taxes. Oh, the taxes. You paid a tax to Rome, a tax to the local ruler Herod, and religious tithes to the temple in Jerusalem. Tax collectors, often local men working for the Romans, were despised. They were notorious for taking more than their share, and there was little you could do about it. This constant economic pressure pushed many families to the brink of poverty, creating a deep-seated resentment that simmered just beneath the surface. Society was sharply divided. At the top were the Roman officials and the wealthy priestly families in Jerusalem. At the bottom was everyone else, the vast majority of the population, just trying to get by. This social and economic tension was amplified by a deep spiritual crisis. Jewish society wasn't one unified bloc. It was a fractured landscape of competing groups, each with a different vision for the future. The Sadducees were the wealthy, conservative temple elite. They collaborated with Rome to maintain their power and the status quo. They controlled the temple, the center of Jewish religious and economic life. Then you had the Pharisees. They were lay scholars, experts in Jewish law, who were highly respected by the common people. They believed in strict observance of the Torah and held that traditions passed down orally were just as important as the written scriptures. They were often at odds with the Sadducees over religious interpretation and practice. In the desert wilderness, away from the cities, were the Essenes. They believed the temple in Jerusalem had become corrupt and retreated into isolated communities, like the one at Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. They lived a disciplined, communal life, waiting for a final apocalyptic battle between good and evil. And finally, there were the Zealots. They weren't a formal party yet, but the sentiment was growing. They believed that paying taxes to a pagan emperor was an act of treason against God. They advocated for violent rebellion, convinced that only through force could they cast off the Roman yoke and restore an independent Jewish kingdom. Into this powder keg walked teachers, prophets, and healers. The air was thick with expectation. People were desperate for a Messiah, a promised king who would deliver them from oppression. But what kind of Messiah? A political revolutionary who would lead an army against Rome? A spiritual teacher who would purify the nation from within? When a figure like John the Baptist or Jesus of Nazareth appeared, drawing huge crowds, it wasn't just a religious event. It was a political one. For the average person, living day to day, these teachers offered a glimmer of hope in a dark world. Their message of renewal, justice for the poor, and a coming kingdom resonated deeply. But to those in power, they were a threat. Large gatherings could easily turn into riots. A popular leader could be crowned king by the mob, sparking a full-blown insurrection. The authorities, both Roman and Jewish, were constantly on edge, watching for any sign of trouble. Traveling was a dangerous affair. The Roman roads were an engineering marvel, but they were also crawling with bandits. A journey from Galilee in the north to Jerusalem in the south was a multi-day trek on foot or by donkey, through treacherous terrain. You'd travel in caravans for safety. Every stranger on the road was a potential threat. Every town had its own tensions. So imagine yourself there. You're trying to feed your family. You're trying to pay your crushing taxes. You're navigating a complex web of religious rules and social obligations. You see Roman soldiers on every corner, a constant reminder of your subjugation. You hear whispers of rebellion, rumors of prophets, and debates about the end of the world. It felt like the world was spinning out of control, that something had to break. This wasn't just a backdrop for a few famous stories. This was the lived reality for millions of people. It was a world of intense faith and brutal power, of profound hope and deep despair. Understanding this wild, unstable, and electrifying time is the key to understanding how the events that unfolded here would go on to change the course of human history forever. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey back in time fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more dives into the most incredible stories from our past. See you next time.